Do not attempt to adjust your set. This is a streaming freedom video bulletin. It cannot be stopped, and it is the only free voice left on the net. Hello friends, and welcome back to the channel. In today's Skyrim video on the PlayStation 4, what I have for you is different from the mod showcase videos that I normally bring you, as this is not a showcase. However, we will be discussing a mod in this video and the issues that it caused when I used it. What this video is an attempt to be able to help somebody that might have either the same issue or a similar one on console that I had back when I first started modding and could not find any help, and that is missing sound. Back when I had this issue, I could find no help at all for a console on it, on YouTube or even in a search engine like Google. The only help that I would find was for the PC version of the game, and the things that they discussed had nothing to do with ultimately what had caused it for me. So, if you are somebody that you don't care about the overall story and just want to know what caused it, then the short of it is bees. For the rest of you that are interested in finding out how bees caused this issue, how I ultimately found out and fixed the issue, please stay tuned. So, you're going to notice that if you've been with me for a while, that my Whiterun looks extremely different from the way that you're used to. In fact, it almost looks vanilla. That is because I have returned Whiterun to the way that it was back when I had this issue. This was back before patch 120. Back then, I was much newer to modding in Skyrim, but even so, I had been doing it for a while without any issues. I am well aware of the issues that can come up from using mods, the unforeseen problems that they can cause. Now, I had not changed anything in my loader. At the time, the mods that I had installed were the ones that I had been using pretty much from the start after getting into modding Skyrim, and I had never had any issues with any of them until this fateful day here in Whiterun, which was the only place that I encountered the issue. It happened nowhere else. So, as I was exploring Whiterun, I noticed that any time that the NPCs were trying to talk to me, or if they would try to talk to one another, that for some reason I could not hear them. They had no voices. Their mouth would move, so they were clearly talking, but I could not hear them at all. On top of that, whenever I moved around, I could not hear my footsteps, I could not hear the sound my armor made, or even jumping like this, I would not be able to hear when my character landed. Most of the sound in Whiterun, for whatever reason, was completely gone. However, that problem only happened if I was outside. If I went into a building, everything was fine and the NPCs could talk and I made sound as I moved. Outside, however, the only things I could hear was the sound of water running, the sound of the insects buzzing, and that was about it, nothing else. And the reason why was because of the mod that I have currently active. You might have been seeing it as we're going around. It was called Gardens of Whiterun, and it was the CE version of the mod. There is two versions of it, and the CE version was the version that I chose to use. The mod adds a bunch of very beautiful flowers all around Whiterun, and I really enjoyed it. I really missed this mod. The problem was that the mod didn't only add the flowers, but they also added these little bastards right here. The mod had also added in, over time, a very good amount of bees. Now, you're not going to see very much in the gameplay here. That is because this mod has only been active for about 20 minutes. I re-downloaded and enabled it long enough to record this video, and I will be disabling and deleting it again afterwards, even though I would like to keep it. Now, I do not know if it was a combination of this mod and something else in my loader, or if it is simply this mod that does it, but the problem was that the insects would not despawn. Again, the bees that you're seeing now are just far and few in between. This little amount alone won't cause anything. However, imagine walking through Whiterun and you literally see swarms of bees all over the place. There were just absolute masses of bees all throughout the entirety of Whiterun. Their buzzing was so loud and was really the only thing that was still hearable at the time that sound had disappeared. And so I decided to start trying to catch some of them, because I kept wondering why I could hear things like the bees, but I couldn't hear the NPCs. I could hear my footsteps, so obviously not all the sound was missing. And when I went searching for help on this again, I found nothing on YouTube for console, and the only missing sound stuff that I found was about PC and people putting files in the wrong folders. Again, nothing that could help me out on console. So, just on a whim, I decided to go around and start collecting the bees. And as I would collect the bees from an area, little by little, the sound would come back in that particular area. But only in that area. Anywhere else, and the sound would again disappear. I literally had to go through the game, I'd say probably at least 3 in-game days and nights. That's how many bees there was. Collecting them out of the air, one by one, to get them out of there. That's how swarmed this had become. And as I did, sound returned. And the problem was that the bees weren't only outside. You'll remember earlier I said when I went into an interior, sound came back. That's because it loaded an interior. However, if you don't load in through the door, as I'm going to do right here, you'll actually find that these interiors are completely hollow. As you can see, there is nothing here. The problem was the bees somehow also got into here, and I imagine actually I never was able to get into all the interiors doing this trick, so there probably still are some in there even. In fact, I think I hear one right now. I'm actually trained to listen. Yep. I'm actually trained to listen for the little bastards now because I collect them whenever I see them. But just imagine this interior and all the ones like it completely full of these bees. And so that is the cause of the missing sound that I had here in Whiterun all that time ago. And as I went through collecting all the bees out of the various areas of Whiterun, the NPCs as well as my character's footsteps and just sound in general did return. And I do want to make it perfectly clear that if you are somebody that is using this mod currently or intend to, just because I had the issue doesn't mean that you will. It could possibly happen down the line. I had this mod installed for quite a long time with no issue at all until eventually the one day. But again, it could have been something else in my loader interfering with it, or it could just be the way that this mod is made with the insects. However, I do want to state I am not blaming the mod author for this issue. The mod is fantastic, and I really do miss it. It was a beautiful mod. But ultimately, I knew that if I kept it, even after I fixed the problem by collecting all the bees, that it would happen again, because they seemed to multiply even when I wasn't in Whiterun, so I don't want to have to spend all day or multiple days collecting bees, and for that reason I did disable and delete the mod, and I have never had missing sound in my game since. So in closing, I'd just like to say, first of all, thank you if you made it to the end of the video with me here. Thank you for taking the time to watch it. It is my sincerest hopes that if you are somebody on console that you weren't able to find a lot of help if you have this issue or a similar one with missing sound either in an area or a bunch of areas, that my experience can be of some help to you. Now, I do realize, of course, that just because this is the experience I had in my game, that does not mean that this could be the cause in yours, but it is something that I'm hoping could at least point you in the right direction, because sometimes it is the smallest, most insignificant thing that we could think of that ultimately is the cause of the problem. To this day, I still don't know why just a bunch of bee spawns caused me to lose like 90% of the sound here in Whiterun. The only thing that I can think of is that it was just too taxing on the game in this area. And if you are somebody that you don't have this particular mod, but you have any type of mod that adds a bunch of insects or critter spawns in general to an area, and you're having issues with that area, take a look at those mods. That might be what is happening. And so that now brings me to the end of this video. I hope that it was helpful in at least some way to you if you are having a similar issue. Again, I realize that when it comes to console, there really just isn't a lot of help for Skyrim for those of us on console dealing with issues that can happen from mods, and especially to people that are newer to modding the game like I was at that time. These issues can definitely throw you for a loop. Thanks again for taking the time to watch the video, everyone. Take care.